Today I'm going to score and rank 17 fragrances from the brand of Zimaya. Hello friends, I'm George, the nice medic gentleman. Welcome back to the channel guys, I hope that all of you are doing well. It's time for your daily dose of some fragrance content, and for today I've prepared a list of 17 Zimaya fragrances that I'm going to score and rank. And for those who don't know, Zimaya is a budget-orientated sub-brand of Afnan. I've piled up quite a big number of Zimaya fragrances. I think I have over 20 of them, but the ones that I've included in today's video are those that are leaning to that are masculine scents and that are unisex, that lean to the masculine side. I have some feminine scents that I've not included in today's video. In fact, there's one sort of a feminine leaning scent that I've included in today's video, but that's down to the fact that I know some of my friends like to wear scents like that, so that's why I've included that one, and it's a good one. The lowest fragrance score that you're going to see in today's video will be a score of 5, and that score is reserved for only one fragrance, and the fragrance itself is called Raw Leather, and this is pretty much a straight up clone of Irish Leather from Memo Paris. If you're familiar with the original fragrance, then you probably know how Raw Leather smells. As a clone of the original scent, this actually is a pretty nice fragrance, but I have one big problem with this one, and that's the same problem that I have with the original fragrance. I simply don't like it that much. It's a bit too spicy and too leathery for my taste, to be honest, and that's the only reason why Raw Leather will get the lowest score of 5 in today's video. Moving on to the scores of 6, there will be a total of 2 scents that will get a score of 6. The first one is called Ghayat, and this is yet another Memo clone. In this case, we're talking about Iberian leather. And again, the reason why this will get a score of 6 will be because I'm not a huge fan of the original fragrance and I'm not a huge fan of Ghayat. Now, as a scent on its own, it's actually done very nicely and it has even better quality than Raw Leather. This is part of the newer releases from Zimaya, and they've seemed to step up the quality a little bit. It also offers a very, very good performance. It's quite a long-lasting fragrance, but again, it's just a bit too dark, a bit too dense, a bit too heavy for my taste, and that's the only reason why this will get a score of 6. But if you're not afraid of very leathery, very spicy and warm scents, then you can probably check out Ghayat from Zimaya, because it offers very nice quality for a very affordable price and also has a very nice looking bottle. So Ghayat will get a score of 6. And the other fragrance that will get a score of 6 is part of the Paragon line, and it's called Phantom Paragon. Now, this line of fragrances, there are a total of 3 fragrances in here, and all of them are cloning Parfum de Marly scents. And in the case of a Phantom Paragon, this seems to be like a mix between Parfum de Marly's Pegasus and Pegasus Exclusive. Some people claim that this is closer to the Exclusive flanker. Some people say that it's closer to the actual Pegasus itself. For me, this stands somewhere in between. I'm not a huge fan of the original scent, so that's the reason why this will get a score of 6. But to be honest, the whole Paragon line actually offers pretty decent quality and a pretty decent performance for a very affordable price. If you're familiar with the original fragrance, you'll probably end up liking Phantom Paragon. It offers quite good quality and also pretty decent performance. But again, because I don't like the original, this will get a score of 6. And the last one that will get a score of 6 is called Vigor, and this one is heavily inspired by Bulgari's Falkar, part of the private line of Bulgari. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the original fragrance, and I'm not a huge fan of Vigor itself. It opens up quite bright with quite a bit of citrusy freshness, but there's a very skanky, very animalic agar-oud note in the opening of this fragrance, which just ruins the experience for me. On the dry down, this actually doesn't smell bad. It's a bit green, a bit spicy, it has some ambery sweetness, but the first 5 to 10 minutes of the opening of this fragrance I almost cannot stand. It offers decent quality, otherwise quite decent performance, feels very decently close to the original scent, and it's very inexpensive. And because of those reasons, this will get a score of 6 and not lower, but again, I just cannot stand the opening. So Vigor will get a score of 6. Moving on to the fragrances that will get a score of 7, and there are a total of 6 such fragrances. And the first one is called Khafaya, and this is Zimaya's clone of Dior Sauvage Elixir. It actually is not, it's a not bad clone of Elixir at all. It misses on a bit of the spiciness. This lacks a little bit when it comes to the cinnamon. It lacks a little bit when it comes to the nutmeg. So this is slightly less spicy, a little bit sweeter. It has a little bit more ambery sweetness, like a softer version of the Dior Sauvage Elixir. But other than that, feeling quite similar to Elixir itself. Offers pretty decent quality, pretty decent longevity, and it's very cheap. It's one of the cheaper Sauvage Elixir clones that you can get. But because this is, the Sauvage Elixir DNA is starting to become a little bit overplayed at this point in time, I think that's why this will get a score of 7. So the first one that gets a score of 7 is Khafaya. The next one is part of the very same releases, that a few fragrances that got out, that were released at the same time, and it's called Stalion. This is a clone of Ganymede, and it's actually a surprisingly good clone of Ganymede. This again feels just like Khafaya, feels like a slightly less sharp version, slightly less metallic in this case, a mineralic version of the original scent. This feels a little bit more citrusy, a little bit more fruity, a little bit sweeter, but captures the scent profile of Ganymede quite well. Offers quite good performance, quite good quality, and again at a very low price. Again, one of the cheapest Ganymede clones that you can get. And the only reason why this will get a score of 7 and not higher is again because I'm not a huge fan of the original scent. Some more fragrances that will get a score of 7. The next one is called Ghiyom. Now this is an interesting fragrance that to my nose doesn't feel like a straight up clone of anything, but it feels a little bit like a mix between Dolce & Gabbana's K and at the same time smelling very similar to Orto Paris's Mega Mare. It's like a slightly less aquatic, slightly sweeter version of Mega Mare, or you can think of this as like an aquatic version of K. This tends to my nose somewhere in between. It's just a sweeter take on Mega Mare itself, and in fact, now that I'm smelling this one, I haven't used it for a bit of time. This also in the opening smells gives me a little bit of a Coca-Cola vibes as well. But it's a very likable, very easy to wear fragrance that can work pretty much all year round, maybe a part of the hottest months of the year. Offers very decent quality, and I really like the bottle design of this one and a fragrance that I'm going to show you a little bit later on. The next one that gets a score of 7 is part of the Mazaaj line, and it's actually the first fragrance in this line, and it's called simply Mazaaj. And this fragrance is a clone of Nishane Tero, and it's actually done quite nicely. This is one of those very unisex fragrances that maybe even lean a little bit to the feminine side because of the amount of sweetness that it has. It relies on a very hefty dose of a caramel note. You also get quite a bit of spiciness in the opening. It's quite peppery. On the dry down it becomes less peppery, but you get introduced to some cinnamon spiciness. Also this has quite a bit of amber sweetness. All around a very sweet fragrance that feels quite thick in the air and has a very good performance. Quality is also pretty decent, and it again tends to last for a very long time. It's very affordable, so if you're looking for a clone of Tero, then you should definitely check out Mazaaj. The next one that gets a score of 7 is the other Mazaaj fragrance that's currently on the market, and this one is called Mazaaj Infused. It comes in a very similar looking bottle but in a different color. But this is quite different to the OG Mazaaj because this is a very fresh, very citrusy fragrance that relies on a lot of ginger as well, and this one feels like an inspiration by something like Louis Vuitton's Imagination. Not a straight up clone of Imagination, but something done in a similar style. Smells very fresh, smells very clean. There's also quite a bit of a neroli in here as well. The only problem that I find with this fragrance is that the overly strong ginger note to my nose. Other than that, this is a very versatile fragrance that works great in hot weather especially. Smells very clean, very refreshing. Feels kind of balsamic and sweet, slightly sweet on the dry down, and offers actually quite good performance considering how fresh and light scent profile it carries. But again, because of the overly strong ginger note, this will get a score of 7. And the last fragrance that we're going to get a score of 7 featured today is again part of the Paragon line, and it's called Red Carpet. And this fragrance is heavily inspired by Parfums de Marly's Callan. Now I know Callan is one of those scents from Parfums de Marly that is a little bit divisive. Not too many people actually like that one that much. And Red Carpet actually captures the spirit of Callan quite well. It's this quite sweet fragrance that has an interesting blood orange note in the opening that feels very sweet. It's a bit spicy and peppery, maybe slightly woody on the dry down, and I actually quite like this one. I've been enjoying Callan quite a bit because it offers an interesting scent that you don't run into quite often, in your everyday life. Offers again pretty decent quality, just like the other Paragon, the Phantom Paragon that I mentioned earlier. The performance here is not superb, it's about average, but again, this is a very, very cheap fragrance, and there aren't that many Kalan clones, so if you're looking for such a thing, you should probably check out Red Carpet from Paragon, from Zimaya. Now moving on to the fragrances that will get a score of 8. Now the first that I'm going to show you with a score of 8, bottle wise looks very similar to the very first fragrance that I showed you in today's video. It's called Braveheart, and as you can see, bottle wise they're pretty much almost identical down to the cap and everything else, and the only difference here is the sticker up front that shows the name of the fragrance. Now Braveheart, if you look at it, probably you might guess, if you're not familiar with the scent, that this is something again cloning a Memo Paris fragrance, but you'll be totally wrong, because Braveheart actually is heavily inspired by Dolce & Gabbana, the one Luminous Night, but it doesn't feel like a straight up clone of Luminous Night. It's like a sweeter bubblegummy twist on the original scent. In the air, actually, this smells very, very pleasant. Up close, it's a bit synthetic, but that's to be expected at the price point that I got this fragrance. I got it for less than 15 euros, so it's an absolute bargain at that price point. This lacks a bit of the incense and a little bit of the spiciness and the greenness of the one Luminous Night. This is sweeter, more bubblegummy take on the original scent, but definitely smells very similar to that. Offers very good performance, surprisingly good. Again, the quality is not superb, feels a little bit synthetic, but in the air actually smells very, very pleasant, and that's the reasons why Braveheart from Zimaya will get a score of 8. The next one that will get a score of 8 is called Ilham Al Oud, and this fragrance is a clone of Louis Vuitton's Ombre Nomade. Now, the quality here, of course, is nowhere near as good as the one that you get with the Louis Vuitton's fragrance, but this is the cheapest clone of Ombre Nomade that I have in my collection. Another fragrance that I paid something like 13-14 euros to get, which is less than a tenth of the price of the original. This is, again, feels like a slight twist. It lacks a bit of the sweetness of the original fragrance. It lacks some of the, the fruitiness of the original fragrance. This is like a slightly stripped down version of the original scent that relies mostly on the notes of rose, agar oud and leather, and the incense. But again, this is probably the cheapest way that you can experience something similar to Louis Vuitton's Ombre Nomade. I really like the original fragrance, and that's the reason why Ilham Al Oud will get a score of 8. It also offers a very respectable performance for its price tag. And the last one that will get a score of 8 is called Grandeur, and this is the one fragrance that I mentioned in the beginning of the video, the one that feels quite feminine, but at the same time I know, some of my friends, guys, that enjoy this type of scent profile, so that's why this will be included in today's video. It's a very nice, very light, very floral fragrance that relies on a lot of the rose note, but also has quite a bit of vanillic sweetness. It feels kind of ozonic at the same time, kind of fresh and airy, very delicate, all around a very, very nice scent. I don't think this is a straight up clone of anything, or I'm not familiar with anything that smells very similar to this one, but this in a way feels close to Mancera's Roses Vanille. Again, not a straight up clone of that. I think this is cloning something from Al Jazeera perfumes, but I've never tried the original fragrance, so I cannot confirm that. But the quality here is very decent, the price is quite low, and also offers pretty nice performance. And now moving on to the fragrance, the one fragrance that will get a score of 9. It's part of the Sharaf line of fragrances, and it's called Sharaf the Club. And this is a fragrance that's really grown on me in the past about 1 year since I've acquired it. I think slightly less than a year. This, some people claim, is a clone of Creed Aventus Absolute. I've never tried the Absolute Flanker, I've not tried it yet. But this in a way smells similar to the OG Creed Aventus, but at the same time feels quite different. This is more fruity, this is more soapy, this is fresher, lacks a bit of the sort of the smokiness of the original fragrance. All around this actually is done quite nicely, and also with a bit of maceration this evolved quite nicely as well, and really has grown on me. Offers a very high versatility factor, also has a very high complement factor, works pretty much all year round, and the quality is very nice as well. I really like the bottle design. the sprayer is almost pressurized all around. Sharaf the clip again has really grown on me in the past 1 year, and that's the reason why this will get a score of 9, and also because of its high versatility and complement factors. And now moving on to the fragrances that will get a score of 10. The first such fragrance is called Wujood. In this fragrance, I really love the scent profile of the original fragrance that this has been inspired by. This is inspired by Rosendo's Mathieu No. 5. Lacks a bit of the darkness of the original scent, but smells very similar. Relies on a lot of vanillic sweetness, relies on a hefty dose of a leather note, suede leather note. It also feels quite smoky. Basically a very lovely fragrance, and I've really been enjoying Wujood. All around, this is a very nicely done clone of Rosendo's Mathieu No. 5. It can be found usually for very cheap, around about the €20 mark, offers high quality, offers very good performance, and it's perfectly unisex in my opinion, and those are the reasons why Wujood will be the first one that will get a score of 10. The second one that will get a score of 10 is the third member of the Paragon line, and this one is called Royal Paragon. This, as you can probably guess, is inspired by Parfum de Marly's Layton. And it smells very pleasant. Again, it doesn't feel like a straight up clone of Layton. This feels like a slight twist. Maybe feels a little bit more fruity, slightly less spicy, a little bit sweeter than Layton itself, and this is also another fragrance that has evolved really nicely since I got it. When I first initially got this one, it felt a bit sharp, slightly darker than Layton itself, and I firstly thought that maybe Zimaya have tried to clone the Layton exclusive flanker, but over time this has settled really nicely and nowadays smells fantastically good in the air and very similar to Layton itself. Quality is good, the price is very low, and it offers a very decent performance. And because I love Layton itself and because of the other factors, Royal Paragon is the next one that will get a score of 10. And the last fragrance that will get a score of 10, and probably my most favorite Zimaya fragrance currently, is none other than Sharaf Blend. And this is a super high quality clone of Kilian's Angel Share. Again, a clone with a slight twist. This feels like a little bit of a mix between, Latafa Hamra and Angel Share. Lacks a bit of the strength of the boozy note of Angel Share. This feels like a slightly more maybe woody, slightly sweeter take on Angel Share's scent itself, but smells fantastically good in the air. Perfectly unisex, offers a very strong performance, comes very nicely packaged and presented just like Sharaf the Club. And yeah, I've been really enjoying, the original fragrance, and Sharaf Blend to this day remains one of the very best clones of Angel Share that you can get. And for those reasons, Sharaf Blend is the last fragrance that will get a score of 10. And so guys, in today's video I scored 17 fragrances from the brand of Zimaya. I hope that you found this video interesting or helpful. If you did, give it a like, and I also hope that you're going to join me tomorrow for your daily dose of some fragrance content. And until then, stay safe and bye bye.